the Friday before Labor Day. We got the first Friday of the month jobs data for August. The report's ordinary. The other economic data that came in this week, also ordinary, all on track of a continuing expansion of the U.S. economy in the general range of 2 to 2.5%. The copy beside this video quotes extensively from Eric Rosengren, the president of the Boston Fed, explaining patiently that the economy is now growing and has been growing beyond what the Fed thinks is a sustainable rate, which is a shock to a lot of us. And a lot of people feel as though the economy is just sort of pooping along here and the economic lives of 2/3 of Americans really not getting any better. But the Fed is totally focused on the unemployment rate, on the age-old historical belief that an unemployment rate that is too low sooner or later will result in wages rising too fast and inflation. So the Fed's still on track to come off zero, and I assume they will in September, if only to get it over with. But the circumstance that we're in is very strange, and it's so strange that what the Fed does doesn't matter. Nobody cares. They will care if the Fed comes in September and then sends signals that it's coming again in December or in the spring. But the assumption is the Fed's going to lift off from zero and just stay there and wait for a while, having done the first part of the trick. The strange circumstance, and I've scoured a good many historical records of the modern era going back to World War II just to make sure that my memory is accurate. The world has never been in a place in which the United States is in a modest growth pattern, strong enough that the Fed is going to raise its interest rates, and all of the other central banks in the world are in one form or another of last-ditch, very nearly panicked efforts to revive their economies and to keep them out of deflation. The latest this week, the European Central Bank, Draghi, the chairman, said effectively that their quantitative easing, they're on the edge of expanding and elongating. And they're in at something on the order of $60 billion a month, so much so that they're running out of paper to buy. That mismatch between overseas central banks and the Fed is important, but even more important is the mismatch between the U.S. economy and the rest of the world's economies. I don't purport to know where it's going. I don't like the looks of the outside world. The situation that they're in does not look cyclical to me. It looks structural. Long periods of economic inflexibility and too much debt all coming to a head at the same time. Here things look very good. I mean, to have a nice Labor Day, trust in the United States. The flexibility here that has allowed us to recover while the rest of the world cannot brings its own pain. And this weekend, while we watch early political shenanigans for 2016, I mean, the impossible characters that are involved, just remember, it's the best place on earth. Best place. And fundamentally okay. Even though the Fed's coming, even if it comes as early as 2 weeks from now, there is enough frightened money in the world coming to the United States that mortgage rates are gradually falling ever so slightly, sitting here about 4%, and not likely to move until something big happens. Thank you all.